So you may be wondering with the number stamps, which sizes of acrylic blocks do you need and how many do you need to use with them? So first of all, I'll just go through the sizes that fit the number stamps, and basically all the stamps will fit on the small round 4.5 centimetre block and also on the small rectangle block. The only stamps that won't fit on those are the number 20 and the large circle. For those two stamps, you need to have the larger round 6.5 centimetre block. But all the others will fit either on the small round block or the rectangle block. So you might be wondering, how many acrylic blocks do I need to get to use the number stamps? If you're working at home with kids, you only really need a couple of blocks, the bigger one and one of the smaller ones. And what you can do if you're working at home with kids, and it depends how many kids you have as well. If you have more kids sharing the blocks, say 2 or 3 children, then you'll want to have a few more. But maybe you have just one child using them, and so you would then only need one of each size. And what you would do in that situation is you would stamp your stamp, and when you finish stamping, you would then get a chamois or a baby wipe or a damp cloth and clean off your ink, and then you can switch the stamps over, put that one back on the sheet, and then get the next stamp that you might need and stamp that one. And again, when you finish with that one, wipe off the ink and put it back and get your next stamp. If you're going to do that, you just need to make sure that you are supervising to start with, because kids can lose them accidentally, especially if they're smaller ones, and also they may not wipe all the ink properly off, and so then they might get inky fingers, which will then transfer onto their paper. If you're working in a classroom situation, maybe with a group of 5 or 6 children, then I don't suggest that you have kids switching the stamps over, because again, it's going to be hard to keep track of whether the stamps are getting back where they need to go, and also they might be getting inky fingers too. So what I would suggest in a classroom situation is that your stamps that you're going to use stay on your block. So you or your education assistant or somebody sets up the stamps before you start to use them, and then they stay either on an ink pad, the colour that they're going to be used with, or you can have a little tray and then you sit your ink pad in the tray, and I'll just grab one of those. So this is a little shallow tray that I've got a little bit of scrap paper in, and then I'm going to pop my ink pad on there, and then when I've stamped my number, I can actually put it back on there, and then that's ready for somebody else to use. So I might have another stamp that I'm using with the green ink pad, and that stays there as well, and that gets stamped and it goes back ready for someone else to use. And maybe another one as well, let's say number 2, and that goes back ready for somebody else to use. And then I might have a separate tray with a separate colour ink pad with different number stamps in that tray. So if you're working in a classroom, how many acrylic blocks do you actually need? Obviously, if you want to use all 20 numbers at once, then you'll need 20 blocks. Now you could get 20 blocks if you wanted, but that's a lot to get in one go, so you might want to start with less. If you were to get 10 blocks, then you could use obviously 10 stamps at once. You could maybe focus on certain numbers, so you could do 1 to 10 if you're teaching younger children, or focus on your 11 to 20 if you wanted. And you also need to keep in mind that 10 blocks may seem a lot, but remember that because the stamps peel on and off, the blocks are completely reusable for any other clear stamps that you have. So you can use the blocks with letter stamps that I sell, or any other clear stamps. They're not just going to be used for the number stamps. And also they are pretty much indestructible. They will last you years and years and years and years. Anyway, but you may find that 10 is a little bit too much to start with. So you could perhaps start with something like 5 or 6. So if you wanted to start with 5 or 6 acrylic blocks, then you would need to plan out your group activity so that you're only using a certain number of the number stamps. So as an example, you may want to just have 6 numbers, and you may choose the numbers 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15. And you may want students to put those numbers in order, or go backwards with the numbers. You may want them to stamp the number and draw that many things next to the number. You may already have a pre-printed sheet with groups of pictures that they have to count, and then they stamp the number. So you could do that kind of thing with the lower numbers if you wanted, numbers below 10. So you just have to sort of plan it out if you only have a limited supply of the acrylic blocks. So if you were going to do that, then again you would get your ink pad and you would pop the stamps onto the tray. You might have another tray with a different coloured ink pad, that's up to you. But that is a way that you can use the number stamps with just a small number of acrylic blocks, and then you may decide that you want to add to those and get some more, so that you have a little bit more flexibility with them. But as I said, just keep in mind that the blocks are can be used with any other clear stamp. So once you've got them, then you've got them, and you don't need to keep. It's not something that you have to keep, that you have to replace basically. Once you've got them, they're there for you to use.